This is Contractor Sense with Ruth King.
Welcome to Contractor Sense. Here you discover ideas, tactics, news, and information that matters to your contracting business and you. I'm your host, Ruth King. This episode is sponsored by Financially Fit Business. Get the business tool that turns your financial statements into impactful graphs that help you see what your business trends are to make sure they are headed in the right direction. Go to www.financiallyfitbusiness and get started today. Thank you for joining us. Here is how we will help your business and you. You know you need an HR person, a marketing person, a CFO, and more to grow your business, but you can't afford the overhead right now. You do want to grow. How do you do it without burning yourself out and imploding the business because no one can do any more than they are doing? My guest today, Nicole Grinnell, owner of Bosun Solutions, has the answer. Nicole, welcome to Contractor Sense.
Thank you so much, Ruth, for having me. I love that intro because that literally describes what we're out to help people with. So I appreciate you just allowing us to be a part of this conversation today.
Yeah, I do my homework.
Yeah. And I know it's a struggle for a lot of probably of your listeners as well. So
yeah, well, the thing is that everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, but I would say the majority of the listeners, or even people who are not listening to this podcast, have this thing that they got to grow, they got to grow, they got to grow, they got to grow. And you grow to a point and then you start imploding because you just can't do it anymore, but you don't have the cash to be able to fund the overhead. So talk about how you handled this situation.
yeah, well, that's exactly what we saw when we originally started. I grew up in small business. I also had a career in corporate life. And there was like this big gap between where small business and business owners were and then what corporations could afford, right? And that gap in between there was what we set out to solve. Is like, okay, well, every business owner still needs marketing support. They still need bookkeeping. They still need operational help, sales potentially. And so how do we bridge that gap between what the business can afford and what it needs? And that's really where the fractional workforce came in, and we began building our model out to support business owners in that way.
So talk about what fractional means.
So fractional is kind of a newer term. When we first started almost 9 years ago now, virtual assistant was the buzzword. But as an assistant myself, I knew that being an assistant was so much more than an inbox and calendaring. I was helping with operational support, marketing efforts. And so we kind of removed that virtual assistant word from our vocabulary and turned it into fractional support. And what that really meant was we could sit down with a business owner and say, all right, what do we need to offload of your plate? And then what does your budget allow for? So maybe it's just 5 hours a week of social media support. A business owner may say, like, I know that I'm just not keeping my social media up. That's where we get a lot of leads. People are going there to see our work. And I just can't, at the end of the day, getting my creative brain to switch that gear is just not happening. So we could bring someone to help for just 5 hours a week, as opposed to what most business owners thought was I have to find a marketing company. I need to bring in a marketing manager. And none of those were just viable for their budgets at that place and time. So the fractional just allows you to bring in what you need for the amount of hours that you need it.
Yeah, Nicole, I have news for you. Most contractors don't have the creativity to do the social media. And I'm not being disparaging, but it's true. Generally, they come from other people.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm in the same boat. And even just the, like, let's say you can do it. Let's say you have that creative bone. Switching from being business owner, manager, leader, CFO, marketing expert, like it's just not doable. Maybe you can do it. You're not going to do it well. And you certainly are going to reach that tipping point of being burnout, and something is going to break down in your business. And so before we reach that point, let's see what we could offload to keep you where you need to be as the leader.
Yeah, focus on what you do best.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's probably not social media.
It's probably not why you got into business. And so let's take some of those things off your plate.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about it. Can you do fractional HR? Can you do fractional? I know you can do fractional CFO or fractional bookkeeping, but can you do a fractional HR?
Yeah, so we kind of have limitations just on what we take on in regards to HR. But we do as far as, can we help with payroll, getting SOPs made, all of those types of HR functions, obviously hiring and recruiting. Absolutely. Where we don't get into is typically, any type of legal any kind of employment law. We're not that, but we definitely have people that we work with that can suit that. But we're really at that space to take off from a business owner like, hey, let us help you with onboarding your team. Let us handle your payroll. We can get some standard operating procedures made for you, and just things that tend to fall in the business owner's lap that can allow them to be free to do what they need to do.
Got it. And so from the bookkeeping perspective, CFO perspective, because I know there are fractional CFOs out there who just do that and they come in and they look at the books, oversee the books and things like that. But can you do that in 5 hours a week? Probably not.
So in the bookkeeping space, which is what we really focus on, absolutely. So just our guideline of what our bookkeepers do is they're going to make sure all of your transactions are reconciled, reach out if there's any questions. And then every month we want to sit down with the business owner, review the books from the month before, make sure everything's classified, everything looks right, and then we're able to close that book. So we don't necessarily go into the forecasting or budgets or CFO type responsibilities, but we are making sure that your books are closed every month. So come this time of year, you are not like, oh my word, I've got to get a whole year's worth of accounting done. It's already nice and buttoned up, and you can send that to your accountant to review. So it's a great way to just keep your finances. I mean, it's very hard to run a business if you have no idea where money's going.
As we all know.
As we all know. And so it allows you to just kind of have that month and obviously year-to-date capture and be able to make decisions for your business.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, as you've probably guessed, that's one of my core things is like,
Yeah.
you got to look at your numbers every month.
You got to look at it. You literally you're making decisions in the dark if you don't know your numbers.
Yep, absolutely. So we've talked through the bookkeeping, we've talked through the HR, we've talked through basically marketing, SEO and that type of thing. Are there fractional, what I would call managers in terms of things like operations, like overseeing a service department or something like that? Or is that something that's just not done? You can't hire a service manager for 5 hours a week.
No, absolutely. In fact, when we first started, we had a fractional operations individual that worked with us, and they just essentially handled client onboarding experience. So just as something as simple as that, where when a new client signs up, this is the procedure that needs to happen. All of the CRM, mail lists, accounting, everything is taken care of so that that customer has a great experience. And then that can eventually grow. So part of the fractional is maybe we start with 5, but now, hey, that she's doing such a great job getting these client onboarding experiences. We actually want to take it to the next level and help with account management. So now this person is checking in with clients. They're triaging any issues. So absolutely, those can grow. And that's a great way for business owners to even kind of dip their toe in fractional because that client onboarding experience is so important and it can easily get missed, especially when you are burning the candle from both ends as an owner.
Right. So before we take a break, if somebody wanted to get in touch with you, how do they do it?
Yeah, the best way to reach us is at our website, which is just bosunsolutions.com, BOSUN. And that kind of actually lays out a lot of different roles that we support in the fractional space. And then if you just drop us a note there, we'll reach out to you and see how we can help.
Very good. And we'll be right back. Thanks for listening to Contractor Sense. Imagine you had total freedom. You didn't have to worry about money. You didn't have to be a slave to your business. The words, I can't, are eliminated from your vocabulary. What if you could do what you want to do, whenever you want to do it? A financially fit business could give you that freedom. How? By knowing what your financial statements are telling you and taking action based on what they say. You can do this in less than 10 minutes a month, at an investment of less than taking your family out to dinner once a month. And if your financial statements are a mess, you can get help. Go to www.financiallyfit.business or click on the QR code below to get started today. We're back. Thanks for listening to Contractor Sense. Before the break, Nicole and I were talking about a fractional whatever that you might need to help you, at least in the beginning, as you grow your business and as you offload some of the things from your plate. One of the questions that came to mind was, okay, so we have a fractional operations person who's working 5 hours a week, and then we really like this fractional operations person. We want them 10 hours a week. Then we need them 20 hours a week. So do you lose an employee or how does that work?
Yeah, so it's funny because I always say, like, I'd probably be a better businessman if I looked at that like, "Ooh, that's lost revenue," but to me, it's a success story. We actually just today had a client that we were all working on offboarding their team members because they've been with us for 5 years now, and they're actually to a place where they're getting to bring over 4 of our contractors as employees. So that's really exciting. So we absolutely have provisions for that. We work with our clients on essentially kind of buyout clauses with them to be able to release everybody and get everybody onboarded. But to us, that is a success story. A lot of times we've even seen contractors where they started out with only having about 10 hours a week availability. They're with their clients so long that now maybe kids are in school, they can work full time, and that transition organically happens. So we always want to encourage that. At the end of the day, we want to see our clients succeed. And so to us, that's just a testimony of the people that we match them with and what a great fit they are.
Yeah, because I can think of no better way to try somebody out. I mean, we're not having this conversation about hiring somebody, but
Correct.
the conversation is, okay, we need somebody 5 hours a week, then we need somebody 10 hours a week.
Mhm.
And as the business grows and this person that you've placed there help the business grow, they're going to get sucked into each other. That's the way I look at it.
Absolutely. And that's really the thing is, when businesses hit that tipping point where I need help, it's really scary to think about bringing in an employee, especially for small businesses. Not only just from the responsibility, but is this going to be a good match? What if it's not? So it's a great way to like bring that person in. Everybody gets to know each other. It's a, very low bar of entry of risk and seeing if that works. And then it naturally will grow. And more times than not, the people that come in say, I need about 5, within 30 days, they're like, how many hours can I get? This person's amazing. This is making my life so much easier. So we're happy to start at those low entry marks. But typically people are finding that relief quickly and wanting that role to grow.
So if there are people who are listening to this and who are retiring and they want to do something part-time, would you take them on?
Oh, that's like my sweet spot because they have a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience. They have probably done more than even what's on their resume. They're overqualified, but they're at a life stage where they want the flexibility. They're not looking to grow. They're not chasing the corporate ladder. They're not doing any of those things, but they're like, you know what? I have experience. I'd love to work 10 to 15 hours a week. And this is a great way for me to still utilize those skills. And it almost feels like a give back to them because they're working with sometimes younger business owners. And it's such a sweet spot for us where they enjoy working and seeing these businesses grow. It still allows them the flexibility. And the business owner could never go out and hire this level of experience as a full time employee for the budget. Right. And
Yeah.
so we love to see those opportunities.
Cool. So let's assume that I am interested in working with you. What are the questions that I should be asking you?
Oh, that's a great question. Normally it's what do we need to be asking then? But so, first and foremost what we like to do with the business owners is just what's taking your time. And what is keeping you from being revenue generating. So for myself, it is having conversations with business owners, right? So if I'm not spending 80 to 90% of my day in that space, everything else needs to be delegated. So that's kind of what we work through with the clients as well, and then just start going through their budget. What is going to be the most ROI immediately? What are we working with on a monthly budget? And we kind of start building out that job description together. Most of the questions we get from clients are, what if this doesn't work out? What if I don't like my person? How long is this engagement? So we walk through all of those. But we are there to support that relationship and make sure that it does thrive. But it's a 30-day cancellation. So it's a great way to get some help without feeling like I've just now signed my life over and I'm committed to this. But you are going to get some time back in your day.
Yeah, and that's the key because a lot of times business owners don't necessarily know what they need.
They don't. And just even having that conversation, honestly, all we're really doing is facilitating a space to think through that, right? Like, let's look at your calendar. What has your time been spent on? Where do we need to get you back into? Let's start delegating that stuff and let's build those job descriptions for you. And then we essentially come back to them with what we believe would be their next best step to bring in as a team member and walk through that process.
Cool. Very good. So then they're through the process, the initial fear of, okay, is this going to work or not going to work? And then it works really, really well. And then they want more.
And that's typically what happens. And it's great because we've already done the legwork and having that initial conversation, right? So maybe the initial role is a bookkeeper. We just don't know anything about where our finances are. I've got to get that cleaned up. Let's bring in someone in-house. Okay, great. Now I actually see that I have some room to bring in another team member. Where I really would love some help is that client onboarding. So we bring in somebody to do that. And so we're kind of building their org chart with them and plugging and playing those people as they need them.
Very good. Final thoughts.
I would just tell you, any business owner, that especially we're at the new year right now and starting out. And if you are still feeling that just like dread, whether it's I know my books aren't in line, I'm not keeping up my marketing presence, I know my clients are having a good experience, my team is overworked. Maybe you have team members that, she started out as an account manager and somehow she's become the marketing director. All of those little things that are pulling at you, really take a minute to start breaking those down and what you think could be offloaded, and just know there's an option out there that as little as 5 hours a week, honestly, less than probably you're spending on Starbucks, you could be bringing in someone to handle those and get everybody back in the seat they need to be.
Very good. And give us your website one last time, please.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Bosun Solutions, BOSUN solutions.com.
Very good. Nicole, thank you so much for being with us.
I appreciate the opportunity, Ruth. Thank you.
And thanks to all of you for joining us. Choose one thing that you discovered and implement it in your business. These ideas, tactics, and strategies help you make more money, have more free time, and give back. If you like today's program, spread the word. Please review this podcast on any device you're listening to it on. Help a fellow contractor make more money, too. For comments or questions, call me at 770-729-0258 or email Ruth King at hvacchannel.tv. Thanks for listening. Have a great and profitable day.